Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Today we're looking at calculating the maximum theoretical ferry range of all of the modern fighters in DCS world. And we're basing this video on a video that we did a few months ago, which was to find out the maximum theoretical intercept radius of these same 6 modern aircraft. Both videos have been requested by you guys, so it's what you want to see. And this ferry range video comes off the back of that intercept radius. We can share some of the data. We've reused some of the data, as you'll see. You can go back and watch that video if you want, or not. It doesn't really matter. So to explain roughly how this works, the ferry range is an aircraft, the maximum range that we can ferry from one airbase to another airbase, including takeoff, including landing, including fog. So the maximum ferry range is takeoff here, and we've got our climb to cruise altitude. We've got our cruise here, and we've got our landing, so that is our orbit, our descent, our orbit or our pattern, and our final approach and landing, plus our fog. That's fuel on ground. Every time, to keep it as realistic as we can, every time one of these fighter airplanes land, they're not allowed to land on fumes like we do on DCS. And DCS is a game. We can land on fumes. In real life, they have to land with something called fog, fuel on ground, amount of fuel they have to have left to have succeeded their mission. Now, we've chosen today a uniform fog, 1320 pounds for all of these aircraft. That's not just dreamt up. That comes from a real fighter pilot who flies one of these aircraft here, who said that's the one that they have to work to. That's the only data I can get, so I'm going to assume that's the same for all of them. That may be unrealistic, but these are the kind of assumptions that we're going to have to make, unfortunately. We can't just guess them. So that's that there. Now the next thing we have to do is... So the way this is going to work is relatively simple. If we've got that amount of fuel on ground that we need, if we've got our takeoff here, and here is our takeoff, that's the amount of fuel it takes these aircraft to take off with their loads to get up to cruise altitude and cruise speed. And you can see it varies wildly between the different aircraft, and that comes directly from the intercept videos. We've already tested this here. So that is that amount of fuel there required. Also landing takes a certain amount of fuel. Again, this comes directly from tests in the intercept radius video, and after testing the aircraft there, we come up with an average of 800 pounds to landing, depending how you do it, but that's doing one pattern, and as shown in that video. There's no point in going over it now, it will just waste your time. And then we've got the next step, the main step, which is the cruise. Now, the cruise is quite difficult to work out because what we're trying to look for is a fuel burn rate at the end of the day. A fuel amount of pounds we burn off per distance travelled, so pounds per mile, imperial we're going to work in today. That is what we want to work. Now, to find that out for each of these 6 aircraft, or even one of them, it turns out, incredibly difficult. It's a very dynamic mathematical model, and it's above what the layman can do. It's above what I can do. It's above what most of you can do. It's just how it is. It's difficult because, like I said, it's dynamic. As the aeroplane moves forward through the sky, it burns fuel. Therefore, it gets lighter. Therefore, its weight changes. Therefore, its drag changes. As it gets lighter, it has a less angle of attack. Therefore, its frontal drag changes. And so, at one point there, the fuel burn is completely different to that point there, which is one problem. Also, to find the optimum altitude and the optimum speed for the optimal burn, again, for those reasons, is almost impossible. A, it constantly changes. B, it's just incredibly hard to find anyway. The only aircraft that tells you, I mean, technically this guy tells you a little bit, but not a vast amount. That here has a comprehensive FPAS page, which tells you these calculations and does all the work for you. But because none of these other really have a proper FPAS page, we're not letting the Hornet use theirs. We're going to calculate them all in the same way to keep things comparable and fair. So I've been working with my buddy Rogue, and just to show you how complex it is to try and get a model going for this, to work this out, the optimal altitude and speed for these aircraft, and see if we get this going. It's tending to be a bit buggery at the moment. Let's see if that's worked. Yeah, it's pages and pages and pages and pages of data, and this is even barely scratching the surface, to be honest, to actually get it to work. A decent model of this, it turns out it's just almost impossible. You can see how much data he's put together. He's sat there for God knows how many tens of hours doing this. This is only one of the spreadsheets, there's bucket loads of them. So essentially I'm going to give up on that, and we're going to simplify. Simplification is okay. It means we will lose a little bit of accuracy, but overall I still expect this to be within 5% accuracy. So I expect it's going to be fine. So we've got to add some constants. The constant we're going to add in today is the altitude. And we've decided that all of these aircraft for today are going to get an optimal burn at 32,000 feet, whatever their fuel state. Now, that's not plucked out of thin air. That comes from a real fighter pilot who's looked at these aircraft here and says that is what he flies at for optimal burn overall, and what he would say as an average for all of these here. So, you know, other than getting a proper mathematical model going, which is pretty much impossible, then that is bang on the money. That's what we're going to use as our constant. I'm happy with that, okay? Speed is not so easy. Speed is gonna, we could choose a constant speed. He said that 290 KIAS, not IAS, is going to be the average for these. But I'm not quite convinced because the loading is going to vary. I should talk about next the loading of these aircraft. We're going to have no external stores apart from fuel tanks, and we're going to have the best optimum ferry arrangement possible, and that means maximum fuel tanks, maximum internal fuel, no weapons. Is that realistic? Don't really know, but you know, you guys didn't specify exactly what you wanted, so I'm going to give you maximum ferry range. And drag is going to differ massively. An F-15 to get optimal ferry range has to get 3 massive draggy fuel tanks on. This guy here can't carry fuel tanks in DCS at least, so his optimal speed in pounds per mile is going to be so different from F-15. I don't think we can do a constant speed. So we're going to work out the speed today. It's going to take a lot of kind of research in DCS, but that's just how it is. We've got raw data here that we're going to populate, and we've got 20 KIAS here in steps of 25 knots. So we're going to only go to the nearest 25 knots, but that's how it is, just to keep it, you know, reasonably doable. I've started filling out the F-15C here just to check all this works, and you can go over my sums in a bit. The F-15 gives us F-15, all of these aircraft. In fact, that's not actually true, but we'll find ways of doing it. One way or another, all these aircraft are going to tell me their actual brake fuel burn. And this is ones that I've got from the F-15C here. I've still got to complete the 275 KIAS, which my pilot thinks will be the maximum for the F-15, but we'll see. From that, we can convert that into a more useful data. We go to the converted data sheet, which is just this sheet here, this you know, table here converted into useful data. So instead of KIAS, we now go to miles per hour ground speed, which is what we need obviously to calculate ferry distance. Bear in mind that I should say today's conditions are ISA. If you don't know what that is, just Google it, just to save time. So convert those KIAS to ground speed, miles per hour. We get that there. And then what we want here, these figures are now the equivalent of that figure there, except we've now converted into pounds per mile, which is what we're working in today. So in this case, 5,400 pounds per hour at 175 KIAS or miles per hour, 375 ground speed will give you 16.024 pounds per mile fuel burn. And simple how we do that. Check my workings, but I think I've just gone 5,400 divided by 337. Should be right, shouldn't it? Gives you 16.024. Repeat that, and you can see that the most efficient burn so far, pounds per mile, is 472 miles per hour, 250 KIAS, which sounds right. Just what my fighter pilot said. 12.288 pounds per mile. I'm going to do that one just to finish it off, and then we'll go do the other planes. Once we've got the most efficient fuel burn here, we're going to plug it into our table. I've just put 13, it's just a nominal figure, just to show you how this table works. Takeoff pounds, we've said that's done by experimentation in the previous video. Landing pounds, done by experimentation in the previous video. The distance done to the takeoff and get up to altitude, which takes ages, you know, optimally. If you're going to do it optimally, if you can put your afterburners on, you can go straight up. But if you're going to do it fuel optimally, this is how many miles it takes to get up to cruise altitude, and that's physical testing in the previous video with an average of 60 nautical miles. Just realised that's nautical miles, and I need to check whether that's nautical or normal miles. I just realised, so I will look at that in a minute. This is the total fuel that our aircraft is going to take in the ferry configuration, including external fuel tanks. We're going to test it. We're going to do a brake test. That is a test at an instantaneous moment, and the way I'm going to test it is at that midpoint there. well, it's technically not correct actually, but at the midpoint in terms of fuel. So I'm testing our aircraft with the half of the maximum fuel, which is slightly awkward. You have to juggle fuel tanks around and stuff to do this, but or the loads in the fuel tanks, but we can do it, I figured. It's not perfectly accurate. It's within a few tens of pounds, but it's as close as we can get in DCS. It's just how we can do. So we're testing the average there, making the assumption that with twice the amount of fuel, the burn is twice as bad, and vice versa. If you see what I mean there, we're taking an average, and that's the best we can do without a full mathematical dynamic model. Windage, this allows for a ratio if we ever want to add windage into the equation here. Again, I've made this modular so that we can add things and take away things. That's why we're doing it like this, to increase accuracy. So this is a base Ferry test we're doing. You guys will now say, no, Cap, that needs adding, this needs adding, whatever. We'll go in and add it. Cruise pounds, so this is L31 minus 1320 pounds, which is our FOG, plus F31 plus G31. So it is total pounds minus our FOG minus our amount of fuel it takes to get up to altitude and the amount of fuel it takes to land. This is our cruise miles, the amount of miles we can do on the cruise section, which is just L39 divided by E31. So that is that there, cruise, the amount of pounds available for the cruise section divided by our pounds per mile maximum efficiency. And here's the ferry range. It is 60 miles, which is the average. We've got down there, which I may need to convert from nautical miles. We're going to check it all out in a minute. Plus, so that's that distance there, plus the cruise, which is that there in this case. So in this particular made up example, we've got a max ferry range of the F-15C of 1660 nautical miles, not nautical miles, with 3 bags on in its configuration. Okay, so I hope I've explained that. What we're going to do now is go and fly the planes, populate these data tables, then come back here for the final analysis. And that's it really. So the next thing we're going to do is jump into DCS. In the background I'll be filling out this table, and we'll see how we get on. Okay, we're in the map now, just to show you the configuration. Our F-15C is here, 32,000 feet. It is 3 full fuel tanks, and we've got our internal fuel at 5% to give us a total of 1289, which is our test fuel parameter, otherwise clean. Let's go. Okay, so we're looking at 275 KIAS, so let's bring that up. 32,000 ASL. Check the configuration. It's all good, too much power. Two knots, that'll work for me, perfectly level. We've got fuel flow of bang on 32, so that's 6,400 pounds per hour. Let's go fill that in the table. Next aircraft is the F-18. Okay, let's just check its. There we go. It's got the half fuel as we tested, as we discussed earlier. So let's start doing the test. I'm going to start from a little higher up because I just don't think these slow speeds actually help. The alpha gets so high at the slow speeds, it just becomes actually less efficient to go slow. So I'm going to try to start with 250 here. What I'm going to do is just realise I can use the auto throttle, can't I? I should say as well, I've turned fuel burn off for these examples, so the dynamic part of it is no longer modelled, which is what we want in this case. So I've got auto throttle on, I've got autopilot on, 250. Where's the fuel burn? Where's the fuel burn? There it is. There it is. Fuel flow times 100, so that's 2,400 pounds per hour in each engine. 2,400 times 2 is 4,800 pounds per hour. So stand by. Okay, as we're on barometric hold, let's come down to 225 now. Try and grab that as he comes. Ping. Automatic throttle on. Let it speed up. Oh, it's so easy in this aircraft, isn't it? It really is. 2,200, so that's 4,400 fuel flow. Let's get that written down. 4,400 pounds per hour. Lovely. Okay, throttle control off. Because it's so easy, we'll just go down to 200 as well. Sure, it won't be more efficient, but settled out. Wow, it's gone up. Look at that. 23, yes, it's 4,600 pounds. 4,600 pounds. Right, let's go up to 275. Ding. Why is it not going on? I hate it when it does that. Must have had afterburner on. My complaint about this aircraft, you can't actually hear when the afterburner's on, which is annoying because in the real life you'd feel it, as I keep saying. No one listens to Cap. Oh, well, I've blown something up, haven't I? What have I done wrong? Obviously, I've done something wrong here. I don't know what. ATC's just stopped working. That is incredibly frustrating. If I just put my landing gear out. Unbelievable. Don't know. Don't ask me. Don't ask me. Gonna work? Gonna work? That was a pain in the ass. Never mind, near enough. Altitude's good, everything's good, near enough. What am I looking at here? 52, 500, 5,200, 5,200. And we'll do 300 knots. It's not going to be a bitch. 30, wow, 32.64. Air friction's getting real high now. Okay. It's done. Simple. Next. Okay, the big biatch. First thing I'm going to do is get our altitude. Hold on, don't I? So I don't cock that up. So, pew, 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 on. Okay. Altitude holds on. Check the bird. The bird is good. So this should be pretty simple, really. Remember how to fly it. Where is the altimeter? There it is. Altimeter is correct. In fact, we've got this down here. I just realised. Okay, so we're near 275. Let's try and hold that on 275. Do we have a speed hold? We do. I can't actually remember how to use it, so I think we're going to do it manually, to be honest. I forgot how fast this thing was. Maybe we'll start with 300 then. Just holding. So 300, we've got 3.2, 6.8. Sorry, 6.4, my bad. And it looks like this aircraft's going to be a little bit different. Well, I better go up one as well. Better try 325. Just something in my gut is saying something's not right here. I think that's good enough. Wow, look at the pounds per hour now. So much friction. 5,000, so that's 10,000 pounds per hour here. So that's clearly not good. Okay. I've got to go down now. Pew! Good enough. Good enough, I reckon. Wow, this thing is so efficient. And he's got a whopping great engine, so I don't know why it's so efficient up here, but whatevs. Okay, we're holding 32,000, near enough. 275 knots. What have we got, Batman? Check the wings and everything's obviously alright. Check there's no actual fuel burning. There's not. So, we've got 2,000, what was that? 400. 2,400, so that's 4.8, isn't it? 4.8. Let's go and have a look. 250, if we can get a stable. So 250 IAS, that is 185, I'm going to say 185, so 1.6, 1.8, 1.85. Let's go and put times that by 2. Well, that doesn't sound right. Something's wrong because the F-15 up here is over 5,000 and the F-18 is, stand by, 4,800. How can this be 3,700? Double check everything. That there is IAS 250. Check. Altitude's correct. Check. The bird is equipped and fueled correctly. I'll go double check in a minute. I'm almost certain it is. Yeah. In fact, total of 10,000. Yeah, that's perfect. Right. Oh, I keep finding little things wrong with heat blur, don't I? They must be getting annoyed by me by now. But Alright, I mean, I'll write it down. That's what it says, but it doesn't sound right, does it? This is supposed to be the gas guzzler. Anyway, let's go down to 2.5. Okay. Oh, it's gone up now. So this is obviously struggling now. So at 225 KIAS, we've got 2.2. So 4.4 thousand pounds per hour. 4.4 thousand pounds per hour. I don't think we'll go any lower because it's just getting less efficient. In fact, I suppose we should do our due diligence, shouldn't we? 1.8 times 2 is 3.6. 3.6 thousand pounds per hour standby. So that's really weird engine profile going on here. Because it's gone down again, I've got to keep going down, I suppose. So I don't know if it'll fly 175 knots. I suppose it must do, mustn't it? The autopilot's starting to screw up, I think. It's gone up again. So 175 knots. We've got 1.9, which is one brain. 3.8, isn't it? 3.8. We've got some data there. I think we need to go and just have a look at that data again before we carry in the DCS. Stand by. Okay, figures are in. So F-18 kind of mirrored the F-15, but was more efficient, as we'd expect. They are more efficient engines, generally speaking. The best was 10 point, whatever that says, 097, so that's going in there, pounds per mile. Now the F-14 was just all over the place. Now that, something's not right. So at that speed it was 11, that speed it was 8, that speed back up to 10, that speed 7, that speed 9, that speed 11. None of it made any sense. I mean, there should be a clear optimal speed, and then it should go up as we go slower and up as we go higher, like that. This plane and this plane. In fact, I'll even highlight it. Look, if I put that kind of green there, I put that. Where is he? Green there. Same speed, just like the pilot thought it would be. Look, 275. But yeah, this guy is just like all over the place. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Can you guys? Did you see anything I did wrong? It's very possible I've made mistakes. So do that. Let me know if I made any obvious mistakes, but it just doesn't seem to be working right. Don't know. I need you guys to explain that to me because it's beyond what I can do. And why, as well as that, why is it so low? Like, I mean, really low. I mean, incredibly stupidly over efficient at this speed. Don't know. Let me know what you think. I really can't understand why that might be. So, is it realistic, I guess, is the thing that we're asking. Don't know. 2,000 miles, look. Sounds fishy. Here's something I'll put out. What about, because it's got such long straight wings, could it be that it's generating so much lift that it's riding at such a low alpha? Unfortunately, I didn't note down the alphas. That it's just super efficient. Doesn't sound right to me, but let me know what you think. Right, next we're going to go to the M2K SU-27 MiG-29S. Okay, Mirage. So let's start down at the bottom at 175, shall we? I should say this is our layout. Thumping great tanks. Our fuel. Okay, where are we? IAS. Let's keep that going down. Autopilot on for the altitude. Wow, alpha's up at 13 degrees. That's pretty sick. Okay, we seem to be stable now. 174. It's close enough. And we're burning 22 kilos per minute. 22 kilos per minute. Let's go and put that in the data set. Okay, up to 200. Okay, seemed pretty stable. 199. 11 degrees alpha. So this aircraft just has a really, look at that. Just has a really high alpha up here. Probably not going to be very efficient at these speeds. So at 200 knots IAS, we've got 19 kilograms per minute. 19 kilograms per minute. Okay, seem to be pretty stable. 225 KIAS at 19 kilograms per minute again. Okay. Okay. Seems to be stable. 250. We've got 20 kilograms per minute. Okay, seems to be stable. At 275 KIAS, 23 kilograms per minute. Okay, pretty stable, 300k IAS at 29 kilograms per minute. The fuel consumption is really stepping up. It doesn't like the drag of these whopping great pods here. I don't think there's any point of going any higher. It's clearly that the drag is just overcoming everything else now in terms of efficiency. Let's go try some more metric planes. Okay, we're in the flanker now, and it's already apparent that this is going to be a little more difficult. Problem is, there is no fuel burn gauges. I've just spent 10 minutes looking all over this cockpit. And there's nothing here. There's a barometric altimeter. Where's my little thing? I've got a barometric altimeter, got a speedo, got a radio altimeter, got a chronometer. I got a HSI, got an ADI, got a VSI. I got my RPMs, I got my turbine temperatures, I got my nozzle positions, I got my fuel gauge, I got this guy, but I don't think that actually does anything in this model. I got that, I think that's inlet ramps. What else have we got? Hydraulics. There's nothing here I can find anywhere that gives any idea of fuel burn quantities, which is a real pain in the butt. So, gonna have to get a bit imaginative. So half fuel in this is neon 5 metric tons. So the best I can think of is we are gonna have to turn fuel burn back on. We'll start it up at 6,000 metric tons here. Sorry, 6,000 kilos here. We'll just fly in a straight line at this altitude at a set speed until we get to 4,000. Then we'll know we've burned 2,000 kilos, and then we can get the pounds per distance by that, because we can go onto the F10 menu, measure how far we've gone, convert that from nautical miles to miles, convert kilos to pounds. I think we can do it that way. So I guess it's going to do that. It's going to set it to 6 tons of gas. Internal fuel, where is it? Fuel weight there. So just going to do a conversion of 6,000 times 2.2 equals 13,200. Okay, that's as close as we're going to get. Let's hop back in. Flank up. Sort the autopilot out quickly. Okay, autopilot on. Just as we thought, 6 tons of fuel. So we're now going to get our set speed of, why don't we start at 250, say, and fly from, let's pause up there, from the beginning point there to wherever we're going to go with 2,000 pounds of 2,000 kilos of burn. Get the speed set. Speed is set. Altitude hold is on. No tanks, obviously, in this vessel. Okay, I'll report back once we've burned 2 tons of gas. Okay, it was a real pain in the butt, but we've burnt 2 metric tons there, so there's pause there, see how far we've gone at 250 knots, 30,000, and we've gone, in terms of, what's that, nautical miles, we've got to remember that. Stop being weird. We've gone, where's the distance? 388 nautical miles. Let's go and write that down. Now, based on the other aircraft, we got our maximum efficiency either 250 knots or 275 knots IAS. So we're going to assume the same thing for the SU-27, because otherwise this is going to be a nightmare to measure. We'll just try it at try at 275 now. Okay, 275, here we come. Pause, mark our position again, make sure our previous mark isn't there, and it's not. Mark there. Okay, 6 tons, let's go. Ping, 2 metric tons burnt, 275 knots IAS. Let's go and do the measurement. Come on, little monkey, there we go. Right, that was a bit of a nightmare, but we've got 397, so faster, significantly more at 275 knots. Let's go and just write that down quickly before I forget. That's 397 nautical miles per 2 metric tons of fuel burn. So that means we should go, for our due diligence, we should go and try 300 knots, I think. I know it's boring doing this, but let's go and do it again. Okay, autopilot on. We're going to do 300 knots. Pion, there's our new thing. Make sure our old sign's not there. It's not. Up to 300 knots we go. Right, let's see how well we do. Like this. It's obviously a lot more slippery than the other aircraft, so maybe we can go faster with more efficiency. Ping. Got there. 2 tons. 300 KIAS gives us efficiency's gone down right down to 364 nautical miles per 2 tons burnt. Let me record that, and then we're on to the MiG-29. Okay, we are in the Widowmaker now. Let's just have a little pause. Now we don't have a fuel burn anywhere per se, but what we have is this guy here that tells us at our current flight parameters we can do that many kilometers until we run out of gas, which is a wonderful thing for us. So that's doing most of the work for us. So let's go and get ourselves set up at I guess 300 knots. Oh, I should show the parameters are that we are flying like thus. All the fuel that we can carry. Looks quite cool with those tanks on, actually, doesn't it? Optimal ferry configuration. So I think we'll start at 300 knots and work our way downward. Fuel burn is turned back off because we're back to the standard way of measuring this. So I'll report back in a second. Okay, we're static at 300 knots. And it's telling us that we can go with our current amount of fuel for 1195, if I'm reading this right. I'm reading this right, aren't I? 1195 kilometers. Let me go and write that down. Okay, let's try 275 knots. I wish all the planes had this. How easy is this? Get that level there. 275 knots. It's telling us that we can do... Wow, look at that improvement. Not quite there yet, hang on. Got to make sure you get the speed static. Makes a huge difference. So I think that's okay. I'm in fast forward motion at the moment. That is going to be 11... Sorry. Oh, I'm not quite there yet. I'm accelerating. It's going to be 1445 kilometers. Stand by. Okay, let's go down to 250. Yeah, it's going to be pretty much static there, isn't it? At no, not quite static yet. Surprisingly difficult to do this is. Got it there? Got it there? Near enough. Can do 1480 kilometers. No, still speeding up. Let's go back down. Okay. We can do 15. Yeah, somewhere between 1480. Say 1490. 1490. Okay, let's go down again. 225. The reason these aircraft don't do better at lower speeds is because the drag doesn't actually get lower. The problem is you're increasing the angle of attack, which increases the effective drag on the frame. So it's about finding that balance between angle of attack and overall speed. And 225 there, and we've got 1410, so we're going down in efficiency now because of the angle of attack's up so high. And we'll try 200. I don't think you can see the angle of attack. It's an aircraft that flies a bit like the Mirage at quite a high angle of attack, especially with these bags on. Nah, you can see it's gone right down now, so it's very roughly about 1070 kilometers there. Right, that's all our data. Let's go and do some conversions, some maths, and analyze it. Hello, welcome back. So we now need to do the second set of data addition. Well, I've done it. I'll just talk my way through it, and you guys can error check me, make sure I've done it right. Then we'll go to the summary and we'll complete the table and have a talk. So, raw data, what we've just done is the Mirage. First of all, we got at the various speeds the kilograms per minute fuel burn rate, which is nice of the Mirage to tell us that. So we can convert it into what we're interested in here, which is pounds per mile. So this is how many pounds it burns per mile at that miles per hour ground speed. So lots of conversion to do. So the way I did it is to take the pounds per minute burn. I times it by 2.2 to turn it into pounds per minute burn, and then I times that by 60 to get the pound per hour burn. Then I divided that by the miles per hour ground speed that we were doing, and we got from that the pounds per mile burn that you can see here. And we see the most efficient is around here at 250 KIAS at 5.59593 pounds per mile burn rate. Next was the flanker. This was a bit of a sod. As you saw, I had to just see how far I could go with burning 2 metric tons of fuel. It's not perfectly accurate, but it's decent. It's decent. I only tried 250, 275 and 300 because it took bloody ages to do this. So what we found was that at 250, check we're recording, and we are at 250 knots IAS, 388, 397 and 364 nautical miles per 2 metric tons of fuel burnt. So to convert that, I took the nautical miles per 2 metric tons. I times that by 1.15078 to convert from nautical miles into miles. I then divided by 4,400 to convert the 2 metric tons into pounds. And then I did 1 over the result of that, which gives us directly the pounds per mile travelled, which is what we want here. And you can see what 9.8, 9.6 there. And wow, that's so much better than the F-15. Why is that? Because we don't have fuel tanks properly for the drag. We'll talk about that in a bit anyway. And we got 10.504 here. So let me know, just if you guys just double check my maths there, make sure it's right. If it's wrong, we'll go through and redo this, but everything seems to look okay. Next, we had the MiG-29, and it did all the work for us. It told us how many kilometers we could do at the current speed, which is good. So all we have to do for that is times that amount of kilometers by 0.621371 to convert that into miles, and then we just divide the amount of pounds in the aircraft, test 7108, to give us a pounds per mile fuel burn, which is quite nice, and we got an optimum of 7.677 there. So I've also turned this table into a chart to help visualize it. So remember that this is kind of inversed, if you like. The lower the number, the better. The lower the number, the more efficient it's being. And what we should see for all of them is like a U shape. They should be most efficient at a certain point and then get less efficient that way and get less efficient that way. That's what we expect to see, is what our pilot friend told us we would see. The pilot friend told us that we'll get these maximum efficiency peaks, which should be around here at about 290 KIAS, which would be about up here somewhere. But when I was talking to him, I wasn't considering having fuel tanks on. So everything's lowered down because of that, because we're a lot more draggy. So we've got the F-15C is the worst overall. It burns the most fuel. The reason for that is almost certainly it's just got such big fuel tanks, so much drag. That will make up for itself in that it can carry so much fuel in the chart, which we'll look at in the summary. But that's the least efficient in terms of pounds per mile. Then the end, it's got a lovely U shape, like we'd expect to see. It means good data. FA-18C, we missed out the very low speed for whatever reason, but it doesn't matter. You can see a very clear U there and an optimal around 515 miles per hour ground speed. And you can see it's more efficient, as we'd expect. Next, we've got the Tomcat, which is just all over the place. And one of the reasons I like to do these, or you guys like to watch these, is because we get to uncover errors with the planes. And I've uncovered countless errors in DCS. And what I find is that the people who make these modules go in and watch these videos and then go and fix their aeroplanes. So it just helps everyone overall. Is this a problem with the Tomcat we've found out? I don't know. It's beyond my understanding. But why aren't we seeing the lovely bell? Why aren't we seeing the U? Why does it scatter up and down? And why is it so good as well? In terms of pound, this is pure pounds per mile. Why is it better than the F-18 and the F-15? It's heavier. It's draggier. I can't remember its drag coefficient with the wings out, but I'm pretty sure it's going to have a higher drag coefficient. And it's got bigger engines, which not necessarily, but probably means it's going to have generally more fuel burn anyway per RPM of engine and blah, 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 blah. So why is the F-14 A so good, and B, why is the data so dodgy? Why is it so jumpy? So we need to go and find out if we've got another problem with the Tomcat there, and if so, that needs obviously correcting. SG-27 next, it was difficult to collect the data, so I just made the assumption that the U curve would be around here, which I figured it was because it's not carrying fuel tanks, so we can go a bit faster, and of course there it is. It's ever slightly better than the F-18C, and the reason is, of course, because it's slick. It carries all of its fuel internally, it doesn't have any bags, so it can be better than the F-18. So that's although it's heavier and draggier generally, that's just a thing to bear in mind. Next is the MiG-29, which actually did really well. For whatever reason, it's just really, assuming my data's right down there, or my conversion is right, did really well, better than the F-18. Same amount of drag as the F-18, I would have thought 3 big bags, airframes roughly the same weight and whatnot. So I'm not sure why it's so much better. Remember, this is in DCS. This isn't necessarily, this isn't the real planes per se, but it's considered about £2 on average, about £2 per mile better than the F-18 for reasons that I don't know. It's just how it is. We've got a lovely U-curve again, as we should be seeing, of course. And finally, the Mirage 2000. It's the only single-engine bird here, so it was always going to do pretty well. Beautiful data, lovely U-curve, peaking around 472 miles per hour ground speed, and yeah, just did really well. Plenty of drag on the bird, but only one engine burning. It's a relatively efficient engine, but it's going to be offset when we go to the summary, just because obviously it can't carry as much fuel as the other birds. It's just not as big. So that's it. One excuse for the F-14, maybe it was doing things with its flaps. I know it does things with flaps automatically, put them up and down at different speeds. Maybe, it put its flaps up at this point and became less efficient, put its flaps down at that point and became more efficient, or whatever. Let me know what you think there, but you can go back and rewatch the video and see everything I did to see if I made any mistakes, but I don't think I did. So there's the data. Next, we're going to complete this table and go to the summary. Okay, so all the final results are in. So if you haven't watched all of the video, then that's the cruise altitude we've been dealing with as specified by our pilot. Here is the fuel burn data, how we calculated it. There's it in graphical form. I've got our optimal fuel burns here. Let me just double check that's right. Yep, that's our optimal fuel burns. Pounds per mile, that's the amount of fuel it takes to take off and get up to the test altitude. The landing, the takeoff, how much distance it takes here. I've got 60 nautical miles there. We calculated on average. That converts to 69 miles, which is what we're using for the final figures. Here's the total amount of fuel that can be carried by the bird in what we call its optimized Ferry loadout. Here's the test for reasons that we explained earlier. Here is the amount of fuel available for cruise, bearing in mind that a certain amount is required for landing and takeoff, and here's how many miles we can do in the cruise section, and here's how many here is the total end product, the ferry distance. So if we're taking off from a runway with full fuel and ferry configuration, we're doing a full cruise, what's the maximum we can get to the airbase, land at the airbase with having our specified fog at the end there? Well, here it is. So we've got F-15C at 1761 with 3 bags, no weapons. F-18 1370, so that's significantly less, although its fuel burn is significantly £2 per mile better, and it's simply because the fact it just doesn't carry that much fuel as the F-15. F-14, amazing. It doesn't carry as much fuel as the F-15, but the burn rate is curiously good, shall we say. Personally, I think we've probably found an error in the F-14 there. Doesn't sound right to me to be. I can't see any reason why it's so fuel efficient. As ever, I stand to be corrected, but it just doesn't feel right. Let me know what you guys think anyway. You know more than me about this stuff. Mirage 2000, a little bit iffy in my opinion, in that when we did the intercept radius, it did so well. Why does it do so well? It's just, it's like a glider. It doesn't burn any fuel. I'm starting to come to the conclusion now that the Razban modules are just over-modelled, in that the Mirage 2000, in all the kinetic tests, how tight it can turn, how fast it can climb, how, you know, all these things just seems to be too good. However, I'm by no means an expert. I'm just recording this data for you guys, analysing it. Same with MiG-19, other Razban module seems to be just so good for its class. It just doesn't make sense to me. Again, that's not an official statement. That's just how it feels from doing all this data. Anyway, the Mirage 2000, yeah, so how about that? It can carry 16, just a little bit less than the F-18C, but its fuel burn rate is half. So we can go 2,500 miles in the parameters as set up. So that's well, batshit crazy, basically. Flanker, it's pretty much the same as the F-15C. It can carry less gas, but the fuel burn is significantly better because no drag, no fuel tank drag. Simple as that. MiG-29S, it's got very decent burn rate, better than the Tomcat. I mean, it does have small engines with less power than anything here per engine. I think it's even got less power than a Smegma, hasn't it? It's about the same, actually. It's a long time since I studied this aircraft. But anyway, that's the pound per mile fuel rate with 2 engines. And you can carry the least amount of fuel here, including the Mirage. So that's, wow, that is a low amount of fuel, isn't it? 14,000 pounds it can carry, and therefore it can do 1430. Which is still, incidentally, a lot larger than the Hornet. So, Hornet is the worst here. And yes, there are inaccuracies. We've talked about the inaccuracies here, but generally, comparing them pound for pound with the parameters we've set up, it is the worst here. Closely followed by the MiG-29. Then pretty much equal are the Flanker and the F-15C, the 2 air superiority fighters. Then we've got the Tomcat, the naval interception aircraft. Still not convinced about that. It doesn't seem right to me. Let me know what you think. And then the just ridiculously efficient Mirage 2000, which I personally don't think is right, but I'll let you guys analyse that with a bit more experience and clarity. So that's it. We'll add the F-16C when that comes out. Let me know what you guys, how well you guys think it's going to be doing. I think it's going to be do really well because it's got that big, relatively high bypass single turbofan. I guess it's a bigger version of the Mirage 2000 engine with a very light airframe, presumably the lightest airframe here, stand to be corrected, and it can carry 3 big bags. Ooh, so that could do better than the Mirage, could be up to 3,000. I just don't know. And the other thing is, the reason why I like this, the way we've done here, is that we've got kind of some solid data here now. And if you guys said, oh Cap, but I wanted the F-14B, I wanted to have it with 6 Phoenixes, say, for my Ferry, well then what we can do is we can go and add a ratio modifier. It's not perfectly accurate, but you know, nothing really is here. We can say, you know, there's a certain ratio we're going to add on as measured for 6 Phoenixes, or 3 Phoenixes, or 2 Phoenixes, or 8 spam rams, or 10 spam rams, or whatever, you know. And then we can create extra charts that can just easily allow for these configurations without having to go through all these hours of testing again. So that's why I think it's a good idea to do it on a modular basis like this. I hope you enjoyed that. It took an awfully long time to get that, but it was interesting and it did need doing. And that's all I've got to say. I'll see you later.